Larval Tears are some of the most important resources in Elden Ring. They're limited, they let you respec your character, and they're not so easy to acquire. Some require winning tough battles, while others are hidden away in late game or side quest related areas. But fear not, we can help you track them all down with this guide. There are 18 altogether. So whether you're just double checking to make sure you've collected them all, or you're looking to rebuild your Tarnished before venturing into Shadow of the Erdtree, we've got you covered. First, we should elaborate on how Larval Tears actually work. Consider this a refresher, or a complete explainer if you've picked up a few but haven't figured out what to do with them just yet. As mentioned before, Larval Tears allow you to respec your character, but you can't just activate them from the inventory screen. First, you'll have to reach the Academy of Raya Lucaria and defeat the Rune Bearer Renala, Queen of the Full Moon. For most Elden Ring players, this will be the second legacy dungeon they explore, but of course, Elden Ring is a non-linear game. In any case, once you do defeat Renala, she'll remain seated in her library. Simply speak to her and offer up a Larval Tear to start respeccing, allowing you to redistribute any of the stat increases you've gained over the course of the game. If you don't go through with the changes, you can back out without actually spending the tier. You might have already earned your first one fairly early on. You don't need to defeat Renala to start acquiring Larval Tears, but they of course can't be used until you do. The starting region of Limgrave has one Larval Tear for you to acquire. From the Ogheel Lake south side of Grace, take a few steps southeast to find this wandering noble with a sword. Take him out, then prepare for round 2, because he'll transform into a lesser rune bear after going down. This transforming enemy thing is a big part of this guide. Apparently, they also respec by completely transforming themselves. In any case, defeat the rune bear to get yourself a Larval Tear. Right next to the minor Erdtree in Limgrave is the Siofra River Well, and you can take the lift inside to head way down into the underground portion of the map. There's a merchant down here along the Siofra River, and you can reach him by climbing the wooden scaffolding and following the path into the lower aqueduct. He has one Larval Tear in stock, and it'll cost you 3,000 runes. Next up, Liurnia of the Lakes. The first Larval Tear is on a corpse at the village of the Albinaurics. Head to the settlement under the cliff face to find it at the graveyard right here. The next one comes from another disguised enemy. Start from the Boil Prawn Shack side of Grace and head northwest. Around the gazebo is a group of giant crayfish, and we want the one that's walking around. These things can be tough enough on their own, but once this one is defeated, it'll transform into a nasty grafted scion. Once you manage to take that thing down, it'll drop another tier. For the last 2 Larval Tears here, you'll have to clear Caria Manor and defeat Royal Knight Loretta. This opens up the all-important Three Sisters area. There are some cliffs northeast of Celavis's Rise that you can drop down. Do so and follow the path to reach an upper section of the manor you couldn't get to before. Up here you'll find Pidia, a servant of the manor. He sells a single Larval Tear for 3,000 runes. If he happens to be dead when you get there, don't worry. Just grab the bell bearing from his corpse and give it to the twin maiden husks at Round Table Hold to make the same tier available in their stock. Before we grab the final Larval Tear in Liurnia, we need to make a pit stop on the eastern side of the lake. This spot on the map is the Artist Shack, and you need to touch the resurrection painting here for the next tier to become available. Once you do, return to the Three Sisters and exit to the northeast to hook around the northern walls of the manor. This leads to the graveyard, where you can find the spot depicted in the painting. If you approach this ghost on its chair, it'll disappear and grant you a few items, including the Larval Tear. Just take care of the enemies around it first. Caelid has just one Larval Tear to acquire, and you guessed it, it comes from a transforming enemy. There's a wandering noble kneeling by the coffins south of the Caelid Highway South site of Grace. Defeat him and he'll turn into a bigger, much tougher troll with a fire sword. When that goes down, it'll grant you a tier. When you're ready for another fight, head to the Altus Plateau. There's a set of ruins along the eastern ridge here, and inside is another wandering noble. This one transforms into one of those leaping lion guardians. Defeat it for another tier. Now head to Mount Gelmir, specifically the Road of Iniquity site of Grace. Just east of it is one of those stumbling flaming zombies, and beating it results in it transforming into a giant worm face. Avoid the Death Blight and take it down to win another Larval Tear. We're headed back underground now. The next 5 tiers are all found in Nokron Eternal City, but before you can get there, note that you will have to defeat Starscourge Radahn at Redmane Castle. Once you do, his gravity magic will cease, sending a meteor crashing down and opening a giant pit just west of Fort Height in Limgrave. Carefully drop down the floating rocks there, and you'll find yourself inside the first Eternal City. Start following the rooftops until you reach the Nokron Eternal City Site of Grace. Head down the steps outside, then enter this building on your right. A body inside is holding your first Larval Tear in this area. For the second, keep moving along the same path. There's another body in a gazebo holding another tier. Just watch out for the Silver Tear blobs that are guarding it. Just a little further along this path is the famous Mimic Tier boss fight, and winning that will get you 2 more Larval Tears as prizes. Remember that you can easily cheese this fight by walking in without any gear equipped, waiting for the Mimic Tier to spawn, then quickly arming yourself in the menu as it approaches. Its loadout is copied from yours when it spawns, which means you can have a full-on caveman loincloth fight if you want. As you continue through Nokron, you can descend into an area full of silver tears known as Night's Sacred Ground. The Fingerslayer Blade, which is a key item in Ranni the Witch's questline, lies at the end of this path. You can check out the link in the description for more details if you want. But along the way, you'll be attacked by this giant silver sphere. We're nearly done with the transforming enemies in this guide, and while the sphere won't morph into anything else, it can still be a giant pain. Kite it to the doorway if you have to, and it'll drop another tier whenever you defeat it. For the next batch, we're headed to Nokron's sister city, Nokstella. Give Ranni the Fingerslayer Blade from the Night's Sacred Ground, and she'll open up Renna's Rise in the Three Sisters. The teleporter at the top will send you to Ainsel Rivermane, and following the stream will eventually bring you to Nokstella. If you defeat some more of those rolling silver spheres here, you'll get more Larval Tears for your efforts. The first one is located on this bridge. Get ready to dodge. Make a right just after the bridge and enter the next building. There's another silver tier that will drop from the ceiling in this room. Don't get crushed when it falls, or during the fight for that matter. The last silver sphere is up the stairs from the bridge as you climb to the peak of the city. This one drops from the ceiling as well, but it'll spawn additional silver tiers inside the hallway to make the battle tougher. For our final Larval Tear, we'll need to head to the Consecrated Snowfield, a highly dangerous hidden endgame area. Does that sound intimidating enough? You'll have to fight one last transforming enemy too. Step 1, you'll need to proceed through the game until you can access the mountaintops of the Giants via the Grand Lift of Rold. You can do so after reaching Leyndell Royal Capital and defeating Morgoth the Omen King. Hoisting the Rold Medallion activates the lift, but there's also a second secret medallion you can use to reach the Snowfield. For the first half of the medallion, head to the village of the Albinaurics, where we found a Larval Tear earlier. Up on this hill is one of the villagers disguised as a pot. One simple attack will break the illusion and reveal an old man named Albus. Talk to him, and you'll receive one half of the Erdtree's secret medallion. For the other half, you will actually need to take the Grand Lift of Rold to the mountaintops of the Giants. At the northern edge of this region is Castle Sol, which is a particularly challenging mini-dungeon. What's more, it ends with a fight against Commander Niall, who's one of the most infamous non-demigod bosses in the game. Once you manage to defeat him, head to the lift beyond the boss room to find the other medallion half up top. With these two halves, you can swap commands at the Grand Lift of Rold and use the Erdtree's secret medallion. Get through the preceding tunnel to finally reach the Consecrated Snowfield. There's a frustrating low visibility in parts of this area, but if you head to this spot, you'll find more wandering nobles. The one halfway in the snow will transform into another rune bear upon defeat. Once you defeat the bear, you'll get the final Larval Tear in the game. For now. We say for now because Elden Ring's Shadow of the Erdtree DLC might have some more tiers of its own, or it could add a completely new way to respec. It already has a different leveling system after all. For more content covering the DLC or more guides to get you through Elden Ring's base game, head to our wiki and keep it locked at IGN.